Okay, this sync alpha we have used for calculating the intensity, that is A sync alpha or A sin alpha by alpha. And in this expression, we have taken the amplitude, we have taken the intensity by taking the square of the amplitude. Generally, if the amplitude is real, we would take just the square of the amplitude. But if the amplitude involves complex terms, generally we take a complex conjugate of the amplitude function and multiply with the original function. So that is a psi star. And just by multiplying that, we got A square sin square alpha by alpha square. And just to calculate where we get the maximas and minimas, we have differentiated this expression with respect to function alpha, variable alpha. And then we got di by d alpha equal to 0 as two possibilities, either sin alpha by alpha going to 0 or alpha equal to tan alpha, right? So in this, the left hand side condition gives you alpha equal to pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, etc., which are going to be minima other than n equal to 0. And on the right hand side, it gives you the condition for secondary or subsidiary maxima. These are maxima, secondary or subsidiary, whereas the sin alpha by alpha tending to 0 gives you minima except n equal to 0 case. That n equal to 0 case gave us the principal maxima. Please try to understand. The concepts are that here n equal to 0 will give you principal maxima. Other than n equal to 0, the rest of the n phi will give you minima, and alpha equal to tan alpha gives you secondary maxima. Principal maxima, secondary maxima, and minima. These are the three things, right? So we have obtained the transcendental equation. We have solved it through a plotting of graph. One is y equal to alpha, another one is y equal to tan alpha. The points of intersection gave us the solutions for alpha. That is alpha equal to 0, alpha equal to 3 pi by 2. If you project it further, you get a 5 pi by 2, 7 pi by 2, etc. Right? So both positive and negative. And we have used this. So these, other than alpha equal to 0, are secondary maxima. Alpha equal to 0 is the primary maxima. Right? We call this as central maxima also. So this portion here, this peak is representing the central maxima. And this rectangle here shows the intensity. Please don't get confused. On a distant screen, you are not going to see any sin alpha by alpha like graph. You are going to see just this. Repeat, on the screen, you are going to see just this, but not this sin alpha by alpha graph. So if you plot the sin alpha by alpha whole square graph, you are going to get this kind of pattern. You can clearly see this peak is representing the intensity. So you can clearly see here in the picture, this is the brightmost point, and as you move either upward or downward, the intensities will be drastically falling, right? So this is regarding sin alpha by alpha whole square graph, and this is what you see on the distant screen. And this completes the discussion of Fraunhofer single slit. I also calculated the intensities at subsidiary maxima. When you put alpha equal to 3 pi by 2, 5 pi by 2, 7 pi by 2, etc., you are going to get the intensities as a square divided by something so on. So this is going to be extremely smaller quantities. These are going to be very small quantities, so you don't have to take care of them. Once if you cross the second order or third order, you won't be able to see even them, right? Once if you come to the physics laboratory, I will show you how this pattern will look like in reality. I have a laser diode here. I can project the pattern to the single slit, and I can show you that you are going to get this pattern in reality also, right? So we have discussed all these things. Minima condition we have obtained. Sin theta equal to plus or minus n lambda by d is the condition for minima. Please remember these equations, because in the exam they will ask you problems, calculate the location of some second order minima or third order minima, or they may ask you to calculate the width of principal maxima. So whenever you require to make any calculation, then you need these formulas. That is sin theta equal to plus or minus n lambda by d. If you can't remember this, just try to remember sin alpha by alpha. Wherever it goes to 0, that is minima. Wherever it goes to other than 0, it is going to be a maxima. And when alpha equal to 0, it gives you the principal maxima. These conditions, if you can remember, you can derive this sin theta equal to plus or minus n lambda by d within few steps, right? By remembering just alpha equal to plus or minus n pi. Now, with this, we conclude the Fraunhofer single slit. In yesterday's class, we have seen this graph also. So you get this kind of intensity pattern on the screen. Lower one is showing the intensity, upper one is showing the graph, right? Okay. So with this, I conclude the single slit and I'll make a move to the double slit. I have mentioned in the beginning of the classes of the diffraction that same methodology will be adopted no matter whether you are dealing with single slit, double slit, or any number of slits. Whatever be the number of slits, ultimately you are going to deal in a similar manner. So everywhere you are going to have this kind of slits, right? So I hope you can understand me. Lakshmi Shruti, please turn off your video. Somebody is putting it in chat also. Please, Lakshmi Shruti, TSE. Are you hearing me? Is it muted? Lakshmi Shruti. Okay, I think she is unable to listen. So, okay. So here we have rectangular slit, just like the previous one. With single slit case, we have only one slit. Now I'm going to have a replica of slit, another slit also. This one is the first slit, which I'm showing right now on the picture. First slit, which is similar to the crown of our single slit discussion, which we have made in the previous class. Now I have introduced another identical slit, So it's a replica. The width of the slit is identical. So there is no difference between this slit and that slit. Two identical slits we have chosen, right? So in this first slit, already we know the dimension, the center of the slit we chose as origin, whereas the second slit, there is another center for it. So this center and the center of the first slit, they are going to be separated by some distance. This distance I am going to call as small e. This small e is what you call as slit separation. So here, please try to understand, there is going to be three different parameters. In earlier case, with single slit, we had only one parameter, that is the slit width d, small d. So the open portion of the slit is what you call as dm, small d. Whereas here, we are going to have different parameters, d, e, and b. D, e, and d. D is same, the width of the open portion of the slit. That is, if you take the lower slit, you are going to have minus d by 2 to plus d by 2. This represents the first slit limit. And second slit, it is also having the same width of dm, but the center to center distance between the two slits is what you call as E, slit separation. E is called slit separation and D is called slit width. Please don't get confused. Slit width refers to D, slit separation refers to small d. And as you can see, there are some black patches shown over here. These black patches are opaque surfaces. Opaque means they are not transparent. We cannot see any light through them, right? So these opaque surfaces are the blockage of light between two neighboring slits. So we have first slit, second slit. They are separated by some wall. So this wall is the opaque screen which doesn't allow the light. And I am assuming that the width of opaque screen is small b. I repeat, the width of opaque portion is small b. The width of open portion is small d, and from center to center, the width is actually this E. E, D, and B. These are the three parameters which you should remember. Right? As somebody may point in the previous class, whether the rays are parallel or converging, why don't you draw a lens, etc. You may ask. You can imagine a lens here, a convex lens. I have not drawn intentionally. So we are going to consider same thing, a point S at a distance of y units from the origin. I am choosing this first slit center as origin. There is a distance screen on the distance screen here shown over here, right? So this distance screen is having a point P from where you can observe what is happening on the screen. You may put a converging lens in the middle to see what kind of rays are arriving at P. You need to have a converging lens. Now, just like the single slit case, we are going to take the wave, spherical wave coming from point S reaching P. So once again, same derivation, d psi P. The d psi P, the contribution of the spherical wave coming from S reaching P is d psi P equal to a dy e power iqy with q equal to 2 pi by lambda sin theta. Same logic. So here also these two rays they are parallel rays. They are making equal inclination theta with respect to the reference axis, right? and this distance is y(. Already we have used it in this case. So there is no difference between single slit and double slit except we are adding an extra slit here, right? So we have added two more parameters. One is small e, another one is small b. Apart from this, remaining are same. Now, why we have added this e? There is a reason for adding this e. We know the slit limits of first slit are, if this is 0, this is going to be plus d by 2, this is going to be minus d by 2. Total width is d, right? Similarly, this center coordinate, that is the point D, is at a distance of e units, small e units from the center, that is origin, right? So if this point coordinate is e, obviously, if you subtract d by 2, you know that this is the distance d by 2. Total is d of is d by 2, right? So if you subtract d by 2 from e, you are going to get this coordinate. That is the second slit's lower limit. The second slit's lower limit is e minus d by 2. And similarly, the second slit's upper limit, that is from e, this is plus d by 2, right? So e plus d by 2 is going to be the second slit's upper limit. Just we are trying to put the integration limit, only for that reason I have added this e. This integration is same, like whatever we did in the single slit case, right? I'll make a move to the next slide. Okay. Whatever I have mentioned right now, I have pointed out in these slides. So slit separation is E from center to center. Slit width is D. Opaque portion width is D. And the wavelength of incident light is lambda. So from left hand side, you can see these lines. These lines are the plane wave fronts. The plane waves coming from infinity. Right? They are having a wavelength, monochromatic wavelength of lambda. Now when they collimate this, what is going to happen is what we are going to see in the next slide. Whatever I have explained in the previous slide, I have tried to put it in the word here. That's all. It's not a new slide. I'll post this entire PDF in the group also after the class. Right. So I have already mentioned at point P, the d psi P is going to be a dy e power iqy from an arbitrary point. So the idea here is, earlier I have taken this part, integrated from minus d by 2 to plus d by 2. Now in this case, what I will do is, I will do the integration once again, not just from here to here, but I will also do the integration from this point to this point. So two integrals I am going to add in order to get the resultant intensity of the screen, right? So here, this is the resultant amount. The psi p is going to be the contribution of d psi p from first slit, the contribution of d psi p from the second slit. In a crude example, like the slapping, whatever I gave in the previous class as an example, earlier I said there are 60 students in the class. I was standing on the dais and I asked everybody in the class to give me a clap. That was the single slit. Now, if I call the second section also, if I call two classes, 60, both the students. So first 60 will be beating me and next 60 also will be beating me. So the resultant contribution resultant change that I have received, I can calculate only by integrating from the first slit, also from the second slit. Unless I do this summation over both the slits, I cannot get the resultant intensity. So if you just do the first part of the integral, that is single slit. If you just do the second part of the integral, that is another single slit. So when you add both of them, it is going to give you double slit, right? Okay. As you know how to solve the first integral, we have already done it, This first integral we have already done. Now the second integral part I am going to show here. Just in place of that psi p, I am writing a dy e power iqy, a dy e power iqy, and similarly here a dy e power iqy. Because other slits to d psi also will give you the same contribution, because all slits are identical. Only difference is their limit, right? So the second slit's limit is from minus e by 2 to, e minus d by 2 to e plus d by 2. This is the only difference, right? As you know, the left hand side integral gives you a is a constant, a comes outside. It is just e power a x, e power a x integral will be e power a x divided by a. A in a sense, here it is iq, right? So e power iqy integral is e power iqy divided by iq with upper limit d by 2, lower limit minus d by 2. This is the first single slit part, and this is another single slit part with a different limit. You can see integrand value is same. Upper limit is e plus d by 2, e minus d by 2. Earlier it was only this much, right? Now, this part is quite familiar to you. It is something like sin amma, because e power iq d by 2 e power minus iq d by 2 divided by iq. I have proved in the previous class that this is something like a sin qd by 2 term. I leave it aside. I will just focus on this term amma. So in this term, what I do is, as e power iq plus d by 2 is common. You can see here amma, e power iq plus d by 2, and here in this first term also I have e power iq d by 2 common. If I take common, I'll be left with e power iqe amma, iqe. And don't get confused, this e is the split separation amma. This e is the exponent, logarithmic e, right? So this and this, they are not the same. Don't get confused with the e. And same thing is applicable to the other one. Here it is minus e power iqe. If you pull out e power iqe from both the terms here, from the square bracket, just you are left with another identical term. మీకు ఇక్కడ ఏ టర్మ్ అయితే ఉందో e power iq ని కామన్ తీసేస్తే అదే టర్మ్ వస్తుంది. That's what I'll show in the next step. Okay, I hope you can see now just by comparing this. So e power first term remains same amma. I have not altered this. The second term after this a, I have taken e power iqe outside amma. E power iqe, if I take outside, it is e power iq d by 2 minus e power minus iq d by 2 divided by iq. So this square bracket term and this square bracket term, they are the same, right? So if you pull out a into this square bracket term outside like this, you are left with 1 plus e power iqe. Right? I have taken the square bracket term as common amma. I am left with this. You already know that e power iq d by 2 minus e power minus iq d by 2 by iq. You can multiply and divide by 2 amma. Last time we did 2a and 2i and pull out the q. Right? Is it not looking like sin q d by 2 once again? Same exercise. So whatever we did in the previous class for single slit, it is identical to that. So this term is something like a sin alpha by alpha. So our single slit term is once again back. Right? So this is the modified term. Earlier it was just a single slit term. Now we are having a multiplicative constant. Right? Okay. So let me proceed further. So if you just take this 2 and 2 in the denominator and pull the q outside, what are we left with is 2a by q amma. This term will be sin qd by 2, right? So 2a by q sin qd by 2. Of course, in the next step, I am going to multiply d in both numerator and denominator. I'll take the ad separately and I'll pull the 2 to the denominator, which is qd by 2 is the denominator amount, right? That I'll do later. Sin qd by 2 and into 1 plus e power iqa. The same term I'm writing. I have not manipulated anything. Now I have multiplied and divided by d, right? So sin qd by 2 and the rest of the terms remaining same. I have not altered anything. So this 2, if you pull it to the denominator, you write below this qd by 2. AD, which we know, capital A. Capital A is the total amplitude received at both the slits. In earlier case, I said one slit. Now I'll say the total amplitude received at both the slits. That is what you call as this small AD, which I'll be calling as capital A. Right? So for the time being, the same step I have copied here, thinking that it's a PowerPoint presentation. Anyway, same thing. So if you call this alpha as qd by 2, you know, 2 pi by lambda d sin theta. Last time we have used in the single slit, where alpha equal to pi d sin theta by lambda just by cancelling the 2. Then you can write this as sin alpha, and just by throwing this 2 to the denominator and retaining this ad, you can call the denominator as also alpha, right? Then this term, the first term will become, what happens? Ad sin alpha by alpha, where ad will be capital A sin alpha by alpha. So this term is once again exactly identical to the single slit term. The first part is single slit, second part is the interference term, which we will discuss in a moment. So please keep this aside. Don't bother about this, just leave the term for some time and pay attention only on this small bracket term, right? 1 plus e power iqa. And I am revealing you that this is cos term. This is sine. Similarly, it is going to be cos. How it will be? I am going to prove that. So now you consider only 1 plus e power iq, only consider this term, right? and I'm intentionally taking e power iq e by 2 as common. E power iq e by 2 as common. Well, I can take it, right? Then what happens? Here I want to get 1. So this is e power some let us say some beta, for example, I beta. So e power I beta into something is equal to 1. It is obviously e power minus I beta because e power 0 is 1, right? So what I have done is I have taken e power iq e by 2 outside, and this term I have written as e power minus iq e by 2. E power plus a into e power minus a. E power a minus a, which is e power 0, and hence it is 1. So I am back with the same one. Now coming to the second term, e power iq e by 2 is there. It's already e power iq m. It is something like e power x. So this e power x, I have taken e power x by 2. Half of the exponent I have taken. So the rest of the exponent is retained here. That's why e power iq e by 2 into e power iq e by 2 gives you e power iq e. That's all. Right? So leave this term outside and do one thing. Multiply and divide by 2. Multiply and divide by 2. Why this? Because recall, when you take Euler number e power I theta, e power I theta is cos theta plus I sin theta ma. E power minus I theta is cos theta minus I sin theta ma. So when you add both the expressions, I ask you to do the exercise. I don't know how many of you have tried, but if you do that, you will get cos theta is equal to e power iqe with negative sign, e power plus iqe with positive exponent divided by 2. This gives you cos theta. So this bracket term here is representing cos theta. Of course, if qe by 2 is some theta, then it is e power minus I theta plus e power I theta divided by 2. That is cos theta, right? So I am calling this as cos qe by 2. So 2 e power iqe by 2 into cos 2e by 2. To avoid carrying this qe by 2 every time, I'll be calling this term later as beta ma. You know, qd by 2 I have called as alpha ma. Similarly, qe by 2 I'll be calling as beta. It is only for mathematical simplicity. Instead of carrying this big expression, I'm just trying to take that. Apart from that, there is no other physical significance for it. Okay, right. So this term I'll be calling as beta later, and hence finally this term you can see here, I have already proved that this term is sin alpha by alpha into 1 plus e power iqe. So sin alpha by alpha is there, a sin alpha by alpha. In addition to that, we got 2e power I beta cos beta, right? So I'm going to write that. So in place of the same term, I am just reproducing the same term just to have mathematical convenience. Now I'll be calling this as AD as capital A. You know, at AD. AD means the total amplitude falling on the slit. So I'll be calling this as the total amplitude received on both slits. That is capital A. So capital A and 1 plus e power iqe, just now I have derived 2 into this. So I'll put everything back into this expression to see a sin alpha by alpha as the first term and second term as 2 e power I beta cos beta. A sin alpha by alpha into 2 e power I beta cos beta, with beta equivalent to qe by 2, which is nothing but phi e sin theta by lambda. There phi d sin theta by lambda was alpha, phi e sin theta by lambda is beta, right? Now, if you take a closer look, this a sin alpha by alpha is the term coming from single slit. So this term is coming from the interference of two slits. What I mean by interference? Earlier, we had a sin alpha by alpha function for single slit. Now we have got two such single slits which are very close to each other. So when the slits are far apart, assume that the slits are far apart, then you will get one sin alpha by alpha at one point, another sin alpha by alpha at another point. But the moment when you bring them sufficiently close, what happens there is they are going to interfere. I'll give you a simple example. Assume that you are taking offline classes. You are in one classroom. Just neighboring room is also another class. I mean, I'm taking class in one room. There is a partition. There is a wall. After the 12, there is another class, another teacher is taking another class. So imagine that the wall in between the two classes, hypothetically, it is made to shrink. You may imagine like that. Initially, it was a concrete thick wall. Now, assume that I am simply removing the wall and gradually I am totally removing the wall. When the wall is very thick, you will not see any interference from the neighboring class. Neither my voice will go to the other class, nor other teacher's voice will come into my room, right? But the moment when you gradually remove the partition, it is going to be horrible. Both noises will be superposing. I mean, both voices will be superposing in the class, and hence they will be interfering, right? Just like that, as long as the two slits are far apart from each other, they are going to catch their own sine alpha by alpha pattern on screen separately. But once if they are brought sufficiently close, assume that this is one single slit, this hand is another single slit pattern. Now, when you bring them sufficiently close, these waves will superpose with each other. That is what you call as interference term, right? So here, this 2 e power I beta cos beta term is representing the interference of two single slits, right? The next article would be just a calculation of intensity gamma. Just like whatever we did for the single slit, here we'll do the double slit also. So we'll take the mod psi p square for intensity calculation. Now, this is the psi p gamma. So I want to know mod psi p square. Mod psi p square means psi p into psi p star gamma, which is the intensity. For single slit. But please appreciate here that if you take the square, you are not going to get the correct answer. You are not going to get the real quantity for intensity. Please remember, intensity is a real quantity. Real means you can feel it. If I give you a slap, you can feel the pain. That is a real quantity. It cannot be complex, right? Just like that, intensity is also a tapping done by light ray. So it is a real quantity. So it cannot be complex. That's why you need to take the complex conjugate. That is psi p star. So when you multiply psi p with psi p star, you are going to get the real quantity. What you have to do for getting the psi p star? Please pay attention here to this term, A sin alpha by alpha is a real number, I mean real quantity. So you don't have to bother about it. Cos beta is also a real function. Sin and cos, they are real functions. They are not complex. Only thing is this e power I beta, which is making it complex, right? So in place of I, you just replace it with minus I. That's all. That is going to give you the complex conjugate of this particular function. Okay. Just take this psi and psi p. Just I will be replacing it with minus I beta. So here it is e power plus I beta, and this is e power minus I beta. Multiply both of them, e power 0 will come, which is 1. And whenever you get e power I like terms, you should feel happy because ultimately in calculation of intensity, they are going to get removed. Okay. So what are we left here is a square sin square alpha by alpha square. This is the single slit term, and then cos beta whole square. Now please appreciate the expression for single slit was just a sin alpha by alpha square. There was no 2 cos beta, for single slit case. Why suddenly this 2 cos beta is coming? It is only because. Am I audible now? Am I audible? Hello?
Sir, you are audible, sir. You are audible,
okay.
Sir.
Okay, madam. Thank you. Okay. So here you can see, this a sin alpha by alpha is coming from single slit, and cos beta, the 2 cos beta is coming because of the intersection, or I mean interference, the interference of 2 such single slit terms. When both slits overlap with each other, they are going to give you this cos beta. Actually, in mathematics, you are going to learn, this part I am not going to deal. It has something to do with Fourier transforms. I don't know in which semester you are going to learn it. the Fourier transform for aperture function, I mean the slit function, is going to give you this amplitude on the screen, right? So there is a connection between both, but anyway, you are not studying that probably, so I'm not going to touch that particular part. Okay. So this is regarding the intensity on the screen due to a double slit. And after I proceed to the end state, I can prove that it is going to be valid for any number of slits. I'll give a generalized expression after I deal with the end-slit diffraction with the same method, and I can prove back that whether you get single slit or double slit, they are actually a subcategory of end slits, right? So that's what I'm going to prove in the next class. Anyway, so here, as usual, we'll go for maxima and minimum. Maxima and minimum. In earlier case with single slit, we had only sin alpha by alpha term. Now we have a troublesome term cos beta, right? So we have two terms, and now it is time to decide which one we have to consider. Let me ask you a simple question. I want an answer from you in the chat box. I have, I'm just speaking the question now. I have sin theta and sin 2 theta. I repeat, I have sin theta and sin 2 theta. Out of these two functions, which function oscillates faster and which function oscillates slower? Or in other words, which one is the quick term and which one is the slow term? I want the answer. Can somebody respond? The chat. I have sin theta and sin 2 theta, two terms. Which one is the fast oscillating term? Which one is the slow oscillating term? Which one is faster and which one is slower? Is anybody there? Fast is sin 2x and slow is sin x. Okay. Why it is so much? Can somebody tell? Sin theta is slower. Okay. Okay, I'm getting the answer, but can somebody justify why it is slower? Why it is slower? Can somebody say? Sin theta, both functions are there. Both functions. Are you aware of period of the function for sin theta and cos theta? Period of the function. What is the period of sin theta, ma? Can somebody respond? What is the period of sin theta? Yes, I got the answer. 2 pi. Sirisha, right? You're right. What is the period of sin 2 theta, ma? Arika also respond with the same number. Okay, good. What is Supraja? Okay, pi. It means basically period is the time taken to complete one particular cycle or one complete oscillation. So here sin 2 theta is going to complete the period within pi radians, whereas sin theta is going to take 2 pi radians to complete that, right? So the argument means here alpha or beta. So the argument of any trigonometric function will decide whether it goes faster or slower, right? Only for that reason I have asked you this question. Clear? Thank you. So here sin alpha by alpha is one term, cos beta is another term. I am interested in which one is moving faster. Whether alpha is greater or beta is greater, that fact is going to decide which term moves faster, right? Okay. So clearly you can understand one thing, Amma. This alpha is going to be definitely smaller. I repeat, alpha is going to be definitely smaller compared to beta. Or in other words, here I have written beta is greater than alpha. Can you justify why beta is greater than alpha? Can somebody tell me why beta should be greater than alpha? What is beta? What is beta? I'll show you the other picture so that you can understand it easily. So here you can understand, Amma. I was saying beta and alpha. Alpha is QD, beta is QE. So clearly alpha is D beta is E. Whether E is greater or D is greater. From this picture, can you just say that? Can you just say that, Amma? D is this much, Amma. E is this much. What is the relation between E and D? Can E be ever less than D? E అనేది D కన్నా చిన్నదయ్యే ఛాన్స్ ఉందా? Can E be smaller than D? Of course no, because in the limiting case means you look at this picture, B tending to 0. I mean, wall is totally demolished. Both the slits are touching each other. In that case, from center to center, the distance is E, which is exactly equal to D. Which is exactly equal to D. It means if there is no split separation, then the limiting case is E equal to D. But in all other cases, E is definitely greater than D. Right? So with this, we can easily conclude that beta is always greater than or equal to alpha. Okay, right. So as beta is greater than alpha, with this existing argument that whichever is having argument larger, that is a fast moving term, whichever is having the argument smaller, that is a slow moving term. So clearly cos beta is relatively faster compared to sin alpha. Now you may ask this question, why are you breaking your head by calculating this alpha and beta, which one bigger, which one smaller? Why don't you do this mathematics directly? See, if you have single function, you can just calculate where the minimas and maximas are going to be. But you have a product function, then the term is going to be complicated. In earlier case, I could take dou I by dou alpha equal to 0. The partial derivative of the function with respect to alpha equal to 0. But if you are dealing with two variables, alpha and beta, the derivative is going to be complicated and it is not possible to solve. Right? So with common sense, little common sense, you can easily solve it. As you already know about the maximas and minimas for sin alpha, let's focus on this cos beta. Why? I'll give you a simple example. Sin alpha by alpha, just now I said it is a slow moving term and this is a fast moving term, right? Anyway, our intensity is going to be just product of these two, product of f into g, let us say f of x into g of x, two functions. See, the product function f of x, the product function of f of x and g of x, it will go to 0 if at least one of the function goes to 0. I repeat, sin alpha by alpha may be larger term, let us say, it is a bigger term. But at the same time, if cos beta goes to 0, the first term can be larger. But if the second term goes to 0, the product has to go to 0. Right? So the minimas here are not just governed by the sin alpha by alpha, but they are rather governed by the cos beta term. That's why we focus our attention only on the cos beta, as we are already aware of this sin alpha by alpha. Right? So focus your attention on cos beta. And if you want to know the maxima, I have already written over here. You can see cos beta term, it is going to have a maxima when cos beta is equal to plus or minus 1. Please remember, intensity is cos square beta. No matter whether cos beta is plus 1 or minus 1, cos square beta will give you plus 1. And hence beta is equal to plus or minus integral multiple of pi. You know, cos pi is minus 1. Cos 0 is 1. So like that, any integer multiple of pi, cos is going to give you either plus or minus 1. Right? So beta equal to plus or minus m pi is the possible solution. I am using m here. Earlier I have used n for alpha. So I am trying to retain n there, and I am going to use a new variable m here. Right? As you know, beta, which is nothing but 2 pi by lambda e sin theta, or by 2 is there. So by 2 and numerator gone, you are left with just pi e sin theta by lambda for beta, just like pi d sin theta by lambda for alpha. Okay. So our beta, I am equating it to m pi. So we get sin theta is equal to, of course, there should be a plus or minus sign because I have retained here. So plus or minus m lambda by e is going to give you the condition for maxima. Why? Because cos beta can take maximum of plus 1 and minimum of 0. Right? So this term 0 means intensity drops to 0. This term 1 means intensity is the maximum one. Right? That's why with the simple logic, without making much mathematics, I have taken this expression. So sin theta equal to m lambda by e is the term which dictates the maximas due to Fraunhofer double slit. And in a similar fashion, you can go for the other amount, that is minimum. So equate this cos theta to 0, and you know cos goes to 0 for all odd multiples of pi by 2. Pi by 2, 3 pi by 2, 5 pi by 2, 7 pi by 2 with both positive and negative values. Right? So all odd multiples of pi by 2 can be represented as 2n plus 1 pi by 2. Well, somebody may ask here once again, why don't you take n equal to minus here, 2n minus 1. If I take 2n minus 1, my n is going to start with 1 amma. If I take 2n plus 1, my n is going to start with 0. That is the only difference, right? Only for that simplicity I have taken like this. Okay. So here n equal to 0 I can put, but 0th order minima is not visible. That's why I have started with 1. On the screen you are going to see only the first order minima, but not the 0th order. But mathematically even 0th order minima is also possible. Practically it is not possible, right? Here I said n starts with 0, but here I have intentionally written n as 1, but not as 0. Okay. Yes, I have equated beta to this amount, and you know beta equal to pi sin theta by lambda. So you can just cancel the pi on both sides and get sin theta equal to 2n plus 1 lambda by 2e. If you put n equal to 0, you get lambda by 2e. If you put n equal to 1, you get 3 lambda by 2e, 5 lambda by 2e, 7 lambda by 2e, etc. etc. Right? Mathematically, you can start with n equal to 0 here. Right? But n equal to 0 is 0th order minima, which doesn't make any sense. Always minima starts with 1, 2, 3, etc. There is nothing like a 0th order minimum. Okay, right. Now we have evaluated the locations of maximas and minimas. Now it is time to sketch the intensity distribution due to the double slit. Please pay attention here. I am trying to zoom it. Now please remember, recall that in single slit case, I have drawn this red color line as a sin alpha by alpha term. Right? So this sin alpha by alpha is the single slit term. And now you could see the orange line in the middle, brown or orange, I don't know, maybe it's brown. So these inside peaks are actually because of the double slit amount. I mean, this sin alpha by alpha, when you multiply by cos square beta, that is going to give you this kind of pattern on the screen. It means earlier you had principal maximum. This peak I have called as principal maximum. Now this peak is going to split further into slices. Right. So entire single slit principal maxima now will become pieces of principal maxima. So you won't be able to determine whether it is principal maxima or not. That's why from double slit onwards, we will never ever say principal maxima. I repeat, from double slit onwards, we will never ever use the word principal or central maxima. There is no question of principal maxima or central maxima. It's gone. Only in single slit case, you will get this full envelope, that is full intensity. Whereas in double slit case, you will have a central peak. This is what you call as 0th order maximum. I said 0th order minima is meaningless. Why? Because 0th order maxima is situated here. On either side of this, you get the first minima. This is first minima with positive theta. This is first minima with negative theta. Right? So you cannot expect any 0th order minima in the middle. That's why I said 0th order minima is meaningless, whereas 0th order maxima is meaningful. So the central peak is, I don't know whether you are able to see it or not. Let me zoom it further. I hope that you can see this. So this central one on the axis, vertical axis, is the 0th order maxima due to double slit. And this point, as well as this point, these are the first order minima. And this one is the first order maxima on either side. First order maxima, another first order maxima. Similarly, this one is second order maxima, and this one is also second order maxima, and so on. And if you go further and further, you can see something strange here. At this point, if you look at sin alpha by alpha is going to 0, but our cos square beta is not going to 0 for some value of theta, right? So you can clearly see 0th order maxima is seen, first order is seen, second order is seen, third order is seen, but there should be a 4th order maximum which is forcibly suppressed by this sin alpha by alpha term. What I mean is, the product of functions can go to 0. F of x into g of x is always can go to 0. This can happen either because f of x goes to 0, or g of x goes to 0. So far, what I have been talking is, I suppose that sin alpha by alpha is a relatively slow term. It will never go to 0, whereas this cos beta term will go faster and it will go to 0 much faster than this, right? So whenever cos beta has gone to 0, there you got some minimum. Whenever cos beta has gone to 1, there you got a maximum, right? But for some theta, this cos beta may give you one amount. Cos beta forces that, okay, you should go 1. But at the same theta, if sin alpha by alpha tends to 0, then that particular order will be missing. Means you cannot see that particular order. As you can see in the picture, here fourth order is missing amount. So let me zoom it. Zeroth order is there, first order is there, second order is there, third order is also there. But fourth order is missing. It is suppressed. And these are called missing orders. And this one is going to be fifth order. This one is going to be fifth order, sixth order, seventh order, eighth order, ninth order is there. Once again, 10th order is missing. Right? 1, 2, 3, I think fourth, probably eighth one is missing. This is 8, right? So these orders will be missing orders, which I will deal once if I start the end-slit diffraction, right? So this is only about the double-slit diffraction, and I'm going to deal the end-slit diffraction. I have only 3 minutes time left, so I cannot complete the end-slit diffraction today. I can give you a brief explanation of what is end-slit diffraction, and the rest of the derivation I'll do in the next class. So far, if you have any questions, please ask me. Please type it in the chat if you have any questions, or if you want to speak, then raise your hand. I'll unmute you. Single slit and double slit procedure is same. Only difference is the limits of integration. Single slit is only one upper limit and lower limit, whereas double slit you are going to integrate between two different limits, right? And end slit is going to be a similar process where you are going to do capital number of slits, very large number of slits. And don't worry, I'm not going to do all the integrations independently, because if I want to do some 5,000 integrations, it is not possible for me. There, the 10th class progression, geometric progression is going to help us to get the simplified value of that particular big sum, right? So that's what I'll do now. Anyway, nobody is responding. I don't know whether you are sleeping or not. Maybe I hope that you are all right. So I'll make a move to the next slide. This is regarding end slit diffraction, end slit, capital N. And this is also known as diffraction grating. Diffraction grating. I have a diffraction grating in our laboratory. Once if you come to the offline classes, I can show you how it looks like and how it is going to cast the maximas and minimas on the screen. We have this experiment also this time in the laboratory, determination of wavelength of laser with the help of a diffraction grating. That part we will do once if we come to the regular lab. Okay. So here, what we have is, I am trying to show the same double slit configuration once again to make you understand what is end slit. Please pay attention, Amma. So you have a row of slits, a series of slits, Amma. Here I have only two slits, the first slit and the second slit, right? Both the slits here are separated by a distance of E, which is what you call as slit separation. So E is the slit separation, and the neighboring slits are separated by an opaque patch, a scratch, a line. It doesn't allow any line, and that line's width is the small b amount. So B and E, right? And I know that the width of open portion of the slit is D, whether it is D or this is D. All the slits are identical. Now, what is this O to this edge? What is the distance amount? Can somebody respond in chat? Can somebody respond in the chat? What is the distance between this point and the center, or from the center to this edge? Can somebody respond? What is this distance from O to the opaque portion? Is anybody there? Am I audible? Is the whole class sleeping? E minus B? No. No. E minus B by 2? No. D by 2. Shravani, you're right. I earlier said that this width is D and 0 is the central point. So what is half of the width? Is it not D by 2? Yes, many people are responding now. Right? So this portion is D by 2 and similarly, just above this patch until point A, what is this distance? Is it not once again the same D by 2? Please try to understand. Is it not the same D by 2, Amma? Right? Okay. Then, in terms of B and D, small b and small d, what is the length OA? What is the length OA? Can somebody respond? OA is E, Amma. I am asking you in terms of B and D. In terms of B and D, what is OA? Not in terms of E. No, D is not the answer. Please think. Zoom it. From this edge till this edge, it is D, and from this edge to here, it is D by 2. Right? This is D by 2, and I also know that from here, this edge to point A is also D by 2. Right? So OA distance can be divided into D by 2 plus this width, B, and this width, D by 2. So is it not D by 2 plus B plus D by 2, which is B plus D? See, why are you writing B by D, Amma? Pujita, you are right. So B plus D. So immediately you should understand the fact that no matter whether I write E or I write B plus D, they are just one and the same. Okay. So E equal to B plus D. That's what I want to deliver here. Anyway, I am crossing time, so I don't want to discuss anything more. Just I'll post the notes. Just try to understand this. Understand the split limit summa. So this is the next picture which I am going to deal in the next class. So it is once again similar. Here I have removed the 2 rays also, because every time if I draw 2 rays, you can imagine the scale, how it would be, how difficult it would be to draw 2 rays from this slit. Earlier I have started with single slit, Amma. Just now I have added a second slit. Now I am going to add some thousands of slits. So when such narrow set of slits overlap with each other on a distant point P, how the pattern will look like? That is what we call as diffraction grating. So here also the methodology is same. Once again, you can notice here A dy e power I QY. I mean I 2 pi by lambda y sin theta I have written here. So once again, I am starting with the same tool, a small piece of slit, contribution at P, and then I integrate over all the slits, slit 1, slit 2, slit 3, etc., etc. But with double slit, it is easy. But with n slits, what I will do is, so in the next class, I will do that. I'll take an arc slit, general arc slit. You can, I hope you can notice this here. I'll pick up an arc slit. I'll try to represent the extent of the slit, the limits of the slit. I'll try to express them. So from where to where the arc slit is extending. So I'm going to write that actually ER minus 1. I mean, let me show it here. It will be easier. R minus 1 E minus D by 2 to R minus 1 E plus D by 2. These limits I'm going to calculate in the next class. So with that limits, we'll try to do the same integration and get an expression which I'll conclude in the next class. If you have any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, I'll conclude here. I'll wait for a few more minutes. If you want to raise hand, I'm waiting here. Questions will not arise only in 2 cases. Either you have understood everything or you have understood nothing. So if there is half, neither complete absorption nor any absorption. You will always get doubts, right? So I don't know what I have to assume. E stands for separation, slit separation. Supraja. Last slide. Which slide? You mean this one? The present slide? Is this? No. Sai, which slide, Amma? Arc slit means what? A, your class, if you come to the regular class, maybe you are in CSE 1, for example. I think you are in IT, Kirtana. So your roll number will be somewhere from 1 to 60, let us say. I want to choose a particular girl in the class. I'll call some Kate girl. Probably in mathematics, you might have studied mathematical induction, right? So here I am picking up an arbitrary girl. I am calling as Kate girl. My K can be anywhere in between 1 to 60. A can be 1, it represents the first girl. A can be 60, it represents the 60th girl. A can be 29, it represents the 29th girl. So here I am generalizing, Amma. Assume the ordered slit. Pallavi. I can't get you. So I am just imagining some arc slit. And don't get confused, it is n by 2 or anywhere. I mean, as I said, n slits. I am not really taking any halfway. I am just taking up any arbitrary slit. This R can be 0, I mean, first slit or n split. It's up to you. Right? Okay. Please add some number. Somebody responded, but I don't know. I am also not the group admin. I am not the group admin, just like you. So I cannot add. I think Vasu sir or Sushilata madam, maybe if they see this message, they can respond.
Sir, anything needed, sir?
No, madam. They are chatting something. They wanted to add some number, and they want to exit from one particular mobile. Probably they might have changed their mobile number.
Yes, sir. They have to send it to me personally.
Personally, in a sense, to the group, madam, or your.
Personally to my WhatsApp number, sir, along with name, rank.
Yes.
If she belongs to management, then she has to send it to. Okay.
CSC, madam.
Is it okay? CSC. But she has to send the details, sir.
Okay, madam. Well, girls, Kanakmalakshmi, you got the message, Amma. You have to send these details about your rank, your old number, and new number to Sushilata ma'am's WhatsApp number. I think in the group you will find the admin, Sushilata ma'am. So to that particular number, please send these details. They will add and remove the other number. Is it okay? Okay. So I'll conclude here. So we'll meet in the next class. Thank you all. Thank you, Sushilata madam, and thank you, Vasu sir.
Thank you, sir.
You may conclude, ma'am.